Jack Morrison stood at the large window of the space station, watching the alien ships move through the darkness of space. The Earth hung below them like a blue marble, peaceful and quiet. He had been doing this job for 3 years now, talking to aliens and making deals. It was not the life he had planned, but it was the life he had chosen. The Zephyrians were strange creatures. They looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. Their skin was green and covered with small scales. Their eyes were yellow and cold. They spoke in hissing voices and always seemed angry about something. But Jack had learned to work with them. He had learned their language and their customs. He knew how to make them happy and how to avoid making them mad. Lieutenant Katie Walsh walked up to him with a tablet in her hands. She was young and smart, with brown hair and quick eyes. She had been working with Jack for 2 years and knew almost as much about the aliens as he did. "Commander Morrison," she said, "I have the latest reports from our people on their homeworld." Jack turned away from the window and looked at the tablet. The words on the screen made him frown. There were problems in the Zephyrian military. Some of the generals were not happy with the peace talks. They wanted war with humans. They thought humans were weak and should be slaves. "This is not good news," Jack said. "How many of their generals are involved?" "We think maybe 6 or 7, Katie replied. "But we are not sure. They are being very careful to hide their plans." Jack had been a soldier before he became a diplomat. He had fought in wars on Mars and in the asteroid belt. He knew how to read people and how to spot trouble. The signs were all there. The Zephyrians were planning something bad. "Double the security around the station," Jack ordered. "And tell Captain Burke to keep his men ready." Katie nodded and walked away. Jack looked out the window again. The Zephyrian ships were getting closer. In a few hours they would dock with the station for another round of talks. But Jack had a feeling that these talks would be different. The main dining hall of the station was large and bright. Tables were set up in neat rows with human and Zephyrian food on each one. The aliens ate mostly meat, and it had to be very fresh. The humans ate normal food, but they tried to make it look fancy for their guests. Jack wore his best uniform, dark blue with gold buttons and ribbons on the chest. He had earned those ribbons in battle, but now he used them to impress aliens. At dinner parties. It was a strange world. Ambassador Kethfer was the leader of the Zephyrian group. He was older than most of his kind, with darker scales and scars on his face. He had fought in many wars before becoming a diplomat, just like Jack. That was one reason they understood each other, but tonight, Kethfer seemed nervous. His yellow eyes kept looking around the room. His long tail, which usually stayed still, kept moving back and forth. He was scared of something. "Ambassador," Jack said, sitting down next to him, "is everything well with your people?" Kethfer looked at him with those cold yellow eyes. "All is well, Commander Morrison. We are here to talk about trade routes and mining rights." Jack nodded, but he did not believe it. Something was wrong. The other Zephyrians at the table were acting strange, too. They kept looking at the doors. They kept touching their weapons. Zephyrians always carried weapons, but they were not supposed to use them during peace talks. The guards around the room were different, too. Jack knew the faces of the usual Zephyrian guards. These were new faces, younger faces. Faces that looked eager for a fight. Captain Ryan Burke stood near the wall with his security team. He was a big man with short hair and steady hands. He had served with Jack in the old days before the peace talks started. Jack caught his eye and made a small signal with his hand. Burke nodded and moved closer to his men. The dinner went on. For an hour, Jack talked about trade and peace while watching everything around him. The Zephyrians ate their meat and drank their thick green wine. They laughed at jokes that were not funny. They agreed with things they did not believe. Everyone was acting, then Jack saw it. One of the guards near the door had a small device on his belt. It was not a normal weapon. It was a signal device. Someone was about to give an order. "Excuse me," Jack said to Kethfer. "I need to use the bathroom." He stood up slowly and walked toward the back of the room. As he passed Captain Burke, he whispered, "Get ready." Burke's eyes went wide, but he did not move. He was a good soldier. He would wait for the right moment. Jack reached the bathroom. door and turned around. The guard with the signal device was looking right at him. Their eyes met across the room. The guard's hand moved to his belt. Time seemed to slow down. Jack saw the guard press the button on his device. He saw other guards around the room suddenly stand up straight. He saw weapons appear in their hands. He saw the look of surprise on Ambassador Kethver's face. The attack came fast and hard. The lights went out. Emergency lighting turned on, making everything red and scary. Zephyrian soldiers came through the doors, wearing black armor and carrying big guns. They had been hiding in the hallways, waiting for the signal. "Kill the human leader!" Someone shouted in the Zephyrian language. "Make it look like an accident." But Jack Morrison was not going to die today. He rolled behind a table as plasma bolts filled the air. The energy weapons made a sound like thunder. They burned holes in the walls and set the decorations on fire. Captain Burke and his men started shooting back. Sergeant Lisa Chun dove behind a pillar and returned fire with her rifle. The human weapons were louder than the alien ones, but they worked just as well. Jack looked around the room. There were too many enemies. They had planned this attack carefully, but they had made one mistake. They thought Jack Morrison was just a diplomat. They did not know that he had been a Marine colonel before he learned to shake hands and make speeches. A Zephyrian soldier ran toward Jack's hiding spot. Jack grabbed a metal serving tray from the table and threw it like a frisbee. The tray hit the alien in the face, breaking his nose and making him drop his weapon. Jack jumped up and grabbed the fallen gun. The weapon was heavy and warm in his hands. It had been designed for creatures with bigger hands than humans, but Jack made it work. He pointed it at another soldier and pulled the trigger. The plasma bolt hit the alien in the chest, dropping him to the floor. More soldiers were coming through the doors. Jack could hear their heavy boots on the metal floor. He could hear their officers shouting orders. This was not a small group of rebels. This was a full military operation. Ambassador Kethver was hiding under a table, his yellow eyes wide with fear. "I did not know," he called out to Jack. "I swear I did not know," Jack believed him. Kethver was a good alien, one of the few who really wanted peace. But someone in his government had decided that peace was not profitable. Someone had decided that dead humans were better than living partners. "Katie!" Jack shouted over the noise of the battle. "Are you alive?" "Yes, sir," came the reply from across the room. "I am behind the bar." "Can you reach the communication system?" "I think so." "Good." "Send a message to Earth. Tell them we are under attack." Jack moved from table to table, using the furniture as cover. The Zephyrian weapons were powerful, but they were not very accurate. The aliens were used to fighting in straight lines, like soldiers in an old war. Humans had learned to fight dirty. They had learned to use everything around them as a weapon. A plasma bolt hit the wall next to Jack's head. He could feel the heat on his skin. He rolled to the side and came up shooting. His first shot missed, but his second shot hit a Zephyrian soldier in the shoulder. The alien screamed and fell down. The battle was getting worse. More soldiers were coming through the doors. Jack's security team was brave, but they were outnumbered. Captain Burke was bleeding from a cut on his arm. Sergeant Chin was running low on ammunition. Jack looked around the room and saw something that made him smile. The Zephyrians had made another mistake. They had brought too many soldiers into a small space. They were getting in each other's way. Some of them were afraid to shoot because they might hit their own people. "Burke!" Jack called out. "Push them back toward the doors. Make them crowd together." Burke understood immediately. He and his men started moving forward, forcing the Zephyrians to back up. The aliens tried to spread out, but there was not enough room. They started bumping into each other. Some of them fell down. Jack saw his chance. He ran toward the main control panel for the room's lighting system. If he could turn the lights back on, his people would have a better chance to aim. The aliens were used to fighting in the dark. A Zephyrian soldier saw what Jack was trying to do. He raised his weapon and aimed at Jack's back. But before he could fire, a metal chair hit him in the head. Ambassador Kethver had thrown it. "Go!" Kethver shouted. "Fix the lights!" Jack reached the control panel and started pressing buttons. The room's main lights came back on. The sudden brightness made the Zephyrians cover their eyes. They were not ready for it. Now the humans had the advantage. They could see their targets clearly. Captain Burke and his team moved forward, their weapons ready. The Zephyrians tried to fight back, but they were confused and disorganized. The battle was turning in the humans' favor. But Jack knew this was just the beginning. Whoever had planned this attack would not give up easily. They would try again. And next time they would be ready for Jack Morrison. Jack Morrison stood in the middle of the destroyed dining hall, holding a Zephyrian plasma rifle. The weapon felt good in his hands. It had been 3 years since he had held a gun in combat, but his body remembered what to do. His fingers found the trigger, his eyes found the targets. His mind found the calm that came with battle. The emergency lights made everything look red and dangerous. Smoke filled the air from the burned walls and furniture. The smell of melted metal and alien blood was thick. But Jack felt more alive than he had in years. This was what he was good at. This was what he had been born to do. "Commander," Captain Burke said, walking up to him, "we need to get you to the safe room." Jack looked at his old friend and shook his head. "No, they came here to kill me. Let them try." "Sir, we do not know how many more are coming." "This could be just the first wave," Jack smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator. "Then we better get ready for the second wave." Lieutenant Katie Walsh came running from the communication center. Her uniform was torn and her face was dirty, but she was not hurt. "Commander, I got a message to Earth. Admiral Stone is sending ships, but they will not be here for 6 hours. 6 hours, Jack repeated. That is a long time to stay alive. Ambassador Kethvar limped over to them. One of his legs was hurt, but he could still walk. "Commander Morrison, I have been thinking. This attack was planned by General Vorthak. He leads the Shadow Claw faction in our military. They want war with humans." "How many soldiers does he have?" Jack asked. "On this ship? Maybe 50? But he has more ships coming. This was supposed to be quick and quiet, kill you and blame it on rebels. But now that you are still alive, he will try something bigger." Jack looked around the room. His security team was checking their weapons and counting their ammunition. There were 12 humans left alive. 12 humans against 50 aliens, with more coming. Most people would think those were bad odds, but Jack Morrison was not most people. He had fought worse battles and won. He had been a Marine for 20 years before becoming a diplomat. He knew how to turn bad situations into good ones. "Burke," he said, "take Chun and 3 men to the armory. Get all the weapons you can carry. Walsh, you and 2 men go to the engine room. If they try to board us, cut the power to their docking systems." "What about you, sir?" Burke asked. "I'm going hunting." The hallways of the space station were dark and quiet. Jack moved through them like a ghost, his stolen plasma rifle ready. He knew every inch of this station. He had lived here for 3 years. He knew where the aliens would go and where they would hide. The Zephyrians were good soldiers, but they were not used to fighting humans. They were used to fighting other aliens who followed the same rules. They expected their enemies to stand in lines and shoot at each other until one side died. They did not expect guerrilla warfare. Jack found the first group of aliens in the main corridor. There were 5 of them, moving in a straight line toward the command center. They were talking in their hissing language, confident that they would win. They did not see Jack hiding in the shadows above them. The station had maintenance tunnels that ran through the ceiling. Jack had learned about them during his first week here. The aliens did not know about them. They were too big to fit anyway. Jack dropped down behind the last alien in the line. Before the creature could turn around, Jack grabbed his head and twisted. The alien's neck broke with a wet sound. Jack caught the body before it could fall and make noise. The second alien turned around to see what was happening. Jack threw his combat knife, a gift from his old unit. The blade went into the alien's throat. Green blood sprayed on the wall. The other 3 aliens spun around, raising their weapons. But Jack was already moving. He rolled to the side and came up with the dead alien's gun. 3 quick shots. 3 dead aliens. The whole fight had taken less than 10 seconds. Jack looked at the bodies and felt nothing. These creatures had come to kill him and his people. They had broken the peace. They had chosen war. Now they would learn what war with humans really meant. Jack heard footsteps coming from the other direction. More aliens were coming to investigate the noise. He grabbed 2 more plasma rifles and as much ammunition as he could carry. Then he disappeared back into the maintenance tunnels. The next group of aliens was bigger. 8 soldiers led by an officer with golden scales on his shoulders. They were searching the medical bay, looking for wounded humans to finish off. They did not find any humans, but they found something else. Jack had spent an hour in the medical bay, setting up a surprise. He had taken apart 3 plasma rifles and connected them to the medical equipment. When the aliens opened the door, the motion sensors would trigger the weapons. It was a simple trap, but it would work. The explosion shook the whole station. Jack felt it through the metal walls. He smiled and kept moving. 7 aliens down. 43 to go. Dr. Helen Parker was hiding in the laboratory when Jack found her. She was a small woman with gray hair and gentle eyes. She studied alien biology and had been working on the station for 2 years. She knew more about Zephyrian bodies than any other human. "Jack," she whispered when she saw him. "Thank God you are alive. I thought they had killed you." "Not yet," Jack said, "but they are trying hard. I need your help." "What can I do?" "I am not a soldier." Jack sat down next to her and pulled out a Zephyrian weapon. "Tell me about their weaknesses." "How do I kill them faster?" Helen looked uncomfortable, but she understood. This was war now. Their respiratory system is different from ours. They breathe through small holes in their necks. If you can hit those holes, they will suffocate. What about their armor? It is strong in the front and back, but weak on the sides. Under their arms and their joints are not protected. Knees, elbows, shoulders, Jack nodded. This was useful information. Anything else? Their eyes are sensitive to bright light. That is why they turned off the lights during the attack. If you can blind them, they will panic. Good, stay here and keep the door locked. I will come back for you. Jack left the laboratory and continued his hunt. He found the next group of aliens in the cargo bay. They were trying to set up a communication device to call their ships. Jack could not let that happen. This time he tried a different approach. He found the controls for the cargo bay's artificial gravity. With a few button presses, he turned the gravity off. The aliens suddenly found themselves floating in the air. Unable to control their movements, Jack entered the cargo bay while the aliens were still trying to figure out what had happened. He moved from wall to wall, using handholds to control his direction. The aliens fired their weapons, but they could not aim properly while floating. Jack shot them one by one. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. When he was done, he turned the gravity back on. The alien bodies fell to the floor with wet sounds. More explosions echoed through the station. Jack's security team was fighting their own battles. He heard human voices shouting orders and alien voices screaming in pain. The station was becoming a war zone. Jack made his way to the command center. This was where the aliens would try to take control of the station. If they could control the computers, they could shut down the life support or call for help. He had to stop them. The command center was protected by heavy doors and thick walls. It was supposed to be safe. But Jack knew a secret way in. There was a ventilation shaft that connected to the main computer room. The opening was small, but Jack was not a big man. He crawled through the dark shaft, listening to the alien voices below. There were 6 of them, including an officer with red scales. They were working on the computers, trying to break the human. Security codes. Jack dropped down through a ceiling panel, landing in the middle of the group. Before they could react, he had killed 3 of them with his bare hands. The diplomatic training had not made him soft. It had just taught him to hide his strength. The officer with red scales was fast. He drew his sidearm and fired at Jack. The plasma bolt burned through Jack's jacket but missed his skin. Jack grabbed a computer keyboard and threw it at the alien's head. While the officer was stunned, Jack took his gun and shot him. The last 2 aliens tried to run. Jack shot one in the back. The other one made it to the door before Jack's second shot brought him down. Jack looked around the command center. The computers were damaged but still working. He could still control the station. He sat down at the main console and started typing. First, he locked down all the docking bays. No more aliens could board the station. Then he turned on the internal security cameras. He could see where the remaining aliens were hiding. There were still about 20 aliens left on the station. They were scattered through different sections, some alone and some in small groups. They were starting to realize that their easy mission had become a nightmare. Jack opened the communication system and spoke in the Zephyrian language. His voice echoed through the station. "This is Jack Morrison. You came here to kill me. You failed. Now I am going to kill all of you. You have one choice. Surrender now, and I will let you live. Keep fighting, and I will hunt you down one by one." The station was quiet for a moment. Then Jack heard alien voices arguing in the distance. Some wanted to surrender, others wanted to keep fighting. The arguments got louder, then Jack heard gunshots. The aliens were fighting each other. Jack Morrison sat in the command center, watching the 3 Zephyrian ships approach the station. They were big warships, each one carrying hundreds of soldiers. The ships moved slowly, like hungry sharks circling their prey. But Jack was not afraid. He was planning. Admiral Patricia Stone's voice came through the communication system from Earth. "Jack, we are sending the entire 5th Fleet to your location. Hold on for 4 more hours." "I am not running, Patricia," Jack replied. "They want a war. I am going to give them one." "Jack, be reasonable. You have 12 people against 3 warships. Wait for backup." Jack looked at the alien ships on his screen. "I have been reasonable for 3 years. I have been polite and diplomatic. I have followed all the rules. And they tried to kill me. Now we play by my rules." He turned off the communication system before Admiral Stone could argue with him. Jack had made his decision. He was not going to hide behind the military. He was going to take the fight to the aliens. Captain Burke walked into the command center. His arm was bandaged from the earlier fight, but he was ready for more. "Sir, what are your orders?" "We are going to board one of those ships," Jack said. Burke stared at him. "Sir, that sounds like suicide." "Maybe, but they are not expecting it. They think we are trapped here, waiting for them to come to us. They think we are scared." "Are we?" "Not scared?" Jack smiled. It was the same cold smile he had worn during the fight. "No, Burke, we are not scared, we are angry. And angry humans are the most dangerous things in the universe." Dr. Helen Parker had been working in the laboratory for 2 hours studying the alien weapons and equipment. She was a scientist, not a soldier, but she understood that knowledge was power. The more they knew about Zephyrian technology, the better their chances of survival. "Jack," she said when he entered the lab, "I have been studying their plasma rifles. I think I can modify them to work better for humans." "How? The aliens have bigger hands than we do?" "The weapons are designed for their grip. But I can change the trigger mechanism and the weight distribution. It will make them more accurate for us." Jack nodded. "Do it. What else did you learn?" Helen picked up a piece of alien armor. "Their protective suits are strong, but they have a weakness. They use a power source that can be overloaded. If you can hit the power pack on their back, the whole suit will shut down." "That is useful. Keep working. I need every advantage I can get." Jack left the laboratory and went to find Lieutenant Katie Walsh. She was in the engineering section, working on a project of her own. She had taken apart several alien devices and was building something new. "What are you making?" Jack asked. "A jamming device," Katie replied. "The aliens use radio signals to coordinate their attacks. If I can block their communications, they will not be able to work together." "Will it work?" "I think so. But I need to get closer to their ships to test it." Jack looked at the device. It was small enough to carry but complex enough to work. "How close?" "Maybe 100 meters. Close enough to board their ship." Jack smiled. Katie was thinking like a soldier now. The attack had changed all of them. They were no longer diplomats and scientists. They were warriors. The first alien ship docked with the station 2 hours later. Jack watched from the security cameras as hundreds of Zephyrian soldiers poured out of the docking bay. They were expecting to find dead humans and a captured station. Instead, they found something else. Jack had spent the last 2 hours preparing surprises for them. He had rigged the docking bay with explosives. He had filled the corridors with traps. He had turned the station into a maze of death. The first explosion killed 20 aliens. The second explosion killed 30 more. The survivors tried to advance through the corridors, but every step was dangerous. Hidden weapons fired at them from the walls. The floor gave way under their feet, dropping them into empty spaces. Poison gas filled the air, making them sick and confused, but Jack was not in the station anymore. While the aliens were fighting his traps, he was doing something they would never expect. He was attacking their ship. The alien warship was called the Deathbringer. It was 1 kilometer long and carried enough weapons to destroy a small planet. But most of its crew was now inside the station, fighting Jack's traps. Only a few guards remained on the ship. Jack and his team approached the Deathbringer in a small maintenance pod. The pod was designed for fixing the outside of the station, not for military operations. But it was small and quiet, and the aliens were not watching for it. Captain Burke piloted the pod, while Jack and 4 other men prepared their weapons. They had the modified plasma rifles that Dr. Parker had built, along with human explosives, and Katie's jamming device. "Remember," Jack said to his team, "we are not trying to capture this ship. We are trying to destroy it. Get in, plant the bombs, and get out." The pod attached to the alien ship's hull. Jack used a plasma cutter to make a hole in the metal. The ship's emergency system sealed the breach automatically, but not before Jack and his team were inside. The inside of the Zephyrian ship was dark and hot. The air smelled like sulfur and rotting meat. The corridors were wide and tall, built for creatures bigger than humans. Everything was made of black metal and sharp edges. Jack led his team through the ship's corridors, following the map that Dr. Parker had created from studying alien technology. They needed to reach the engine room and the weapons control center. If they could destroy both, the ship would be helpless. They met their first guards near the engine room. 3 Zephyrian soldiers were standing at a checkpoint, checking identification cards. They were not expecting humans to appear behind them. Jack killed the first guard with his knife before the alien could make a sound. Sergeant Lisa Chun shot the second guard with her plasma rifle. The third guard tried to run, but Private Danny Scott tackled him to the ground and broke his neck. The engine room was huge, filled with machines that hummed and glowed with strange energy. Jack had never seen anything like it, but he knew how to destroy it. He placed explosive charges on the main power couplings and set the timer for 10 minutes. "That should be enough to blow this thing to pieces," he said. The team moved to the weapons control center. This was more heavily guarded. 6 aliens were working at computer stations, monitoring the battle at the station. They saw Jack's team coming and started shooting. The fight was quick and brutal. The aliens were good shots, but they were not used to fighting in close quarters. Jack's team spread out and used the computer stations as cover. They fired back with their modified weapons, hitting the aliens in their weak spots. When the shooting stopped, all 6 aliens were dead. Jack sat down at the main weapons console and started pressing buttons. He did not know how to operate the alien technology, but he knew how to break it. "Katie," he called out, "set up your jamming device. I want to cut off their communications." Katie activated her device. Immediately, the alien communication system started failing. The ship could no longer talk to the other warships or to the soldiers fighting in the station. Jack found what he was looking for. The ship's main weapon was a plasma cannon that could destroy a city. He turned the cannon around and aimed it at the second alien warship. Then he fired. The plasma beam hit the second ship in the engine section. The explosion was so bright that Jack had to cover his eyes. When the light faded, the second ship was gone. Just pieces of metal floating in space. "One down, 1 to go," Jack said, but the third ship was not going to be as easy. Its captain had seen what happened to the Deathbringer and was keeping his distance. He was also recalling his soldiers from the station, realizing that the attack had failed. Jack looked at his watch. 3 minutes until the bombs exploded. Time to leave. The team made their way back to the maintenance pod. But as they reached the docking area, they found 20 Zephyrian soldiers waiting for them. The aliens had figured out how the humans had boarded their ship. "Looks like we have to fight our way out," Captain Burke said. "No," Jack replied. "We have a better idea." He led his team to the ship's escape pods. These were small vehicles designed to save the crew if the ship was destroyed. Jack had studied the alien technology enough to know how to operate them. "Get in," he ordered his team. "We are going to ram the third ship." "Sir, that sounds crazy," Sergeant Chun said. "Crazy is what humans do best," Jack replied. They climbed into the escape pod just as the Zephyrian soldiers found them. Plasma bolts hit the pod's hull, but the vehicle was already moving. Jack piloted it out of the docking bay and into open space. Behind them, the Deathbringer exploded. The bombs that Jack had placed did their job perfectly. The massive warship broke apart in a chain of explosions that lit up the darkness like a new star. The third alien ship tried to shoot down the escape pod, but it was too small and fast. Jack steered it directly at the ship's bridge. Where the captain and his officers were standing. At the last second, Jack and his team jumped out of the pod using emergency spacesuits. The pod continued on its path and crashed into the alien ship's bridge. The explosion killed the captain and most of his officers. Jack and his team were floating in space, but they were not helpless. Jack had planned for this too. He activated a distress beacon that would guide the station's rescue pods to their location. While they waited to be rescued, Jack watched the third alien ship. 2 weeks had passed since the attack on the space station. Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, a human warship that had been built for one purpose: to hunt down General Vorthak and his Shadow Claw faction. The ship was fast and deadly. Equipped with both human and captured alien technology, Admiral Patricia Stone had given Jack everything he asked for. A crew of 200 volunteers, all of them veterans who had fought aliens before. The best weapons that human science could build, and complete freedom to wage war however he saw fit. "Commander," said Colonel Steve Adams, Jack's second in command, "we have found another Shadow Claw base. It is on the moon of Kepler 7 in the outer rim." Jack looked at the star map on the main screen. The base was deep in Zephyrian territory, far from human space. It would be dangerous to attack it. But Jack Morrison was no longer concerned with safety. "How many aliens are there?" Jack asked. "Our scouts say about 500 soldiers, plus support staff. It is a training facility where they teach young Zephyrians to hate humans." Jack smiled his cold smile. "Then it is time to give them a lesson about what humans can really do." Set course for Kepler 7. The Vengeance jumped to faster-than-light speed, crossing the galaxy in a matter of hours. Jack used the travel time to study the enemy base and plan his attack. He had learned much about Zephyrian military tactics in the past 2 weeks. They were predictable creatures who followed the same patterns over and over. Dr. Helen Parker had been working around the clock, creating new weapons that combined human creativity with alien technology. Her latest invention was a virus that could infect Zephyrian computer systems and turn their own weapons against them. "The virus will spread through their network in minutes," she explained to Jack. "Their defense systems will think we are friendly ships. Their weapons will target their own people instead of us." "How long will it last?" Jack asked. "Maybe an hour before they figure out how to stop it." "But that should be enough time for what you are planning," Jack nodded. An hour was more than enough. He had destroyed entire enemy bases in less time than that. Lieutenant Katie Walsh had also been busy. She had modified the ship's communication systems to intercept and decode Zephyrian messages. Now they could listen to enemy plans and know where the Shadow Claw would strike next. "I have been monitoring their transmissions," Katie reported. "General Vorthak is getting desperate. His superiors are angry about the failed assassination. He is under pressure to succeed or face execution." "Good," Jack said. "Desperate enemies make mistakes. and I am very good at taking advantage of mistakes. The attack on Kepler-7 began at dawn local time. The Vengeance dropped out of faster-than-light speed just outside the Moon's atmosphere. Immediately, the Zephyrian base began broadcasting warnings and powering up their weapons, but Dr. Parker's virus was already at work. The alien computer systems became confused. Their radar showed the human ship as a friendly vessel. Their weapons pointed at empty space instead of the real target. Jack launched a squadron of fighter ships, each one piloted by a human volunteer who had lost friends or family to alien attacks. The fighters screamed through the atmosphere, their weapons blazing. The alien base tried to fight back, but their defensive systems were not working properly. The first bombing run destroyed the main power plant. The second run took out the communications tower. The third run targeted the barracks where the alien soldiers were sleeping. The explosions lit up the dark side of the Moon like fireworks, but Jack was not content to attack from orbit. He wanted to look his enemies in the eye when he killed them. He wanted them to know who was destroying their base and why. "Prepare the landing pods," Jack ordered. "I am going down there." Colonel Adams tried to protest. "Sir, that is not necessary. We can destroy the base from here." "No," Jack replied. "I want prisoners. I want information about where General Vorthak is hiding. And I want the survivors to spread the word about what happens when you try to kill Jack Morrison." Jack led a team of 50 soldiers down to the Moon's surface. They landed in the middle of the burning base, their weapons ready. The Zephyrian soldiers who were still alive tried to fight back, but they were disorganized and afraid. The human soldiers moved through the base like ghosts, appearing from shadows and disappearing before the aliens could react. They used tactics that the Zephyrians had never seen before. They fought dirty, using tricks and traps instead of standing in lines and shooting. Jack found the base commander hiding in an underground bunker. The alien was an old soldier with scars on his face and fear in his yellow eyes. He had probably fought in a dozen wars, but he had never fought humans before. "Where is General Vorthak?" Jack asked in the Zephyrian language. The commander said nothing. Jack pulled out his sidearm and shot the alien in the leg. Green blood splattered on the concrete floor. "Where is General Vorthak?" Jack asked again. "I do not know," the commander gasped. "He moves constantly. He never tells us where he is going." Jack believed him. Vorthak was smart enough to stay hidden, but Jack had other ways of finding him. "How do you communicate with him?" Jack asked. "Through relay stations. There is one on Vega Prime, another on Centauri Base. They pass messages between his ships and his ground forces." "Good, that is all I needed to know." Jack left the bunker and rejoined his team. The base was almost completely destroyed. Most of the alien soldiers were dead. The few survivors were prisoners who would be questioned by human intelligence officers. As the human forces prepared to leave, Jack did something that would become his trademark in the war against the Shadow Claw. He left a message for any aliens who might find the wreckage. The message was simple and written in both human and Zephyrian languages. "This is what happens when you try to kill Jack Morrison. Stop now, or I will find you all." The attack on Kepler-7 was just the beginning. Over the next month, Jack Morrison became a legend throughout Zephyrian space. He struck at Shadow Claw bases without warning. He destroyed their supply ships and kidnapped their officers. He turned their own weapons against them and disappeared before they could fight back. The Zephyrian military had never faced an enemy like Jack Morrison. He did not follow their rules of war. He did not fight fair. He used fear as a weapon and struck where they least expected it. General Vorthak tried to adapt his tactics to fight the human threat. He scattered his forces and moved his headquarters constantly. He used decoy ships and false information to confuse Jack's intelligence network, but nothing worked. Jack always seemed to be one step ahead. The turning point came when Jack attacked the relay station on Vega Prime. This was not just a military target. It was a symbol of Zephyrian power, a massive space station that coordinated communications across half their empire. The station was heavily defended, with a fleet of warships and thousands of soldiers. The Zephyrians thought it was impossible to attack. They were wrong. Jack did not attack the station directly. Instead, he infiltrated it. Using captured Zephyrian uniforms and identification codes, he and a small team posed as maintenance workers. The aliens never suspected that humans could be so bold. Once inside the station, Jack's team split up and moved to key locations. They planted explosives in the main computer core, the power generators, and the communication arrays. They also released Dr. Parker's latest virus into the station's computer network. The attack began when the virus activated. Every screen on the station started showing the same message: Jack Morrison is here, surrender or die. The explosions followed seconds later. The main computer core erupted in flames. The power generators overloaded and shut down. The communication arrays sparked and went silent, but Jack was not done. He made his way to the station's command center, where the base commander and his officers were trying to coordinate a response. Jack burst through the doors with his weapon drawn. "I am Jack Morrison," he announced. "You tried to kill me. Now, I am here to return the favor." The fight was brief and one-sided. The Zephyrian officers were not warriors. They were bureaucrats who had never expected to face combat. Jack killed them all in less than a minute, but he left one alive. The base commander, a young alien with silver scales and intelligent eyes. This alien would carry Jack's message to the rest of the Shadow Claw. "Tell General Vorthak that I am coming for him," Jack said. "Tell him that he can run, but he cannot hide. Tell him that humans do not forgive, and we never forget." The young alien nodded, too scared to speak. Jack released him and watched as he ran for the escape pods. Soon, the entire Zephyrian Empire would know that Jack Morrison was hunting. Their general. The destruction of Vega Prime sent shockwaves through Zephyrian society. The relay station had been considered impregnable. If Jack Morrison could destroy it, he could destroy anything. Panic spread through the Shadow Claw as soldiers began to desert and officers started to surrender. General Vorthak found himself increasingly isolated. His own subordinates were afraid to be near him, knowing that Jack Morrison was hunting anyone connected to the assassination plot. Some of his former allies even started providing information to human intelligence, hoping to buy safety for themselves and their families, but Vorthak was not ready to give up. He was a proud warrior who had spent his entire life fighting for Zephyrian supremacy. The Vengeance moved through the asteroid field like a predator stalking its prey. Jack Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the scanner displays as his ship's sensors searched for signs of General Vorthak's fleet. The asteroids were big chunks of rock and metal, some as large as cities, others no bigger than cars. They spun slowly in space, creating a maze of hiding places. "Contact," announced Lieutenant Katie Walsh from her station. "I am reading 20 Zephyrian ships hiding behind the larger asteroids. They are powered down, trying to stay hidden." Jack studied the tactical display. The alien ships were positioned in a defensive formation, using the asteroids as shields. It was a good strategy, but General Vorthak had made one mistake. He was thinking like a traditional military commander, not like someone fighting Jack Morrison. "Colonel Adams," Jack said to his second-in-command, "take half our fighters and circle around to the far side of the field. Make some noise. Let them think you are our main attack force." "What will you be doing, sir?" Adams asked. "I am going to pay the general a personal visit." Jack left the bridge and went to the hangar bay, where a small stealth ship was waiting. The ship was built using captured Zephyrian technology, designed to be invisible to their sensors. It was just big enough for one person and carried enough firepower to destroy a small building. Dr. Helen Parker met him at the ship. She handed him a small device that looked like a metal box with blinking lights. "This is my latest creation," she said. "It will overload any Zephyrian power system within 50 meters. Their ships, their weapons, even their life support suits." Jack clipped the device to his belt. "How long will it take to work?" "About 30 seconds, but be careful. The energy discharge might damage your equipment too." Jack climbed into the stealth ship and sealed the hatch. He had done this kind of mission many times in his Marine days, but never against aliens in an asteroid field. It would be dangerous, but Jack Morrison had stopped worrying about danger weeks ago. The stealth ship slipped out of the Vengeance's hangar bay and into the asteroid field. Jack piloted it carefully, using the rocks as cover. The Zephyrian sensors could not detect his ship, but a collision with an asteroid would kill him just as surely as an enemy weapon, he found. General Vorthak's command ship hiding behind a massive asteroid. The ship was called the Bloodfang, and it was the largest vessel in the Zephyrian fleet. It bristled with weapons and armor, built to survive any battle. But it had one weakness that the aliens did not know about. Jack Morrison was about to exploit that weakness. The stealth ship docked with the Bloodfang through an emergency airlock. Jack used a plasma cutter to burn through the hull, creating a small hole just big enough for one person. The ship's emergency systems sealed the breach automatically, trapping him inside. Jack found himself in a maintenance corridor filled with pipes and machinery. The air was hot and thick, smelling of sulfur and oil. He could hear alien voices in the distance, speaking in their hissing language. They were preparing for battle. Not knowing that the enemy was already inside their ship, Jack made his way through the ship's corridors, following the map that his intelligence team had created from studying captured Zephyrian vessels. He needed to reach the bridge, where General Vorthak would be commanding his fleet. The first guards he encountered were standing at a checkpoint near the engine room. Two young soldiers who looked nervous and scared. They had probably heard stories about the human who was hunting their people. Jack decided to give them something new to be scared about. He activated Dr. Parker's device. The guards' weapons stopped working. Their communication equipment went dead. Their armor's life support systems shut down. They looked at their useless gear in confusion, not understanding what had happened. Jack stepped out of the shadows behind. Hello, he said in perfect Zephyrian. I am Jack Morrison. You have heard of me. The guards tried to run, but Jack was faster. He killed them both with his bare hands, using techniques he had learned in hand-to-hand combat training. Their bodies fell to the floor with soft HUDs. Jack continued through the ship, leaving a trail of dead aliens behind him. Some he killed quickly and quietly. Others he left alive but wounded, knowing they would spread fear through the ship. By the time he reached the bridge level, the entire crew knew that Jack Morrison was aboard their vessel. General Vorthak was exactly what Jack had expected. A big alien with dark red scales and scars covering his face and arms. He wore a uniform decorated with medals and ribbons from a dozen wars. His yellow eyes were cold and intelligent, filled with hatred for humans. The general was standing at the main command station, surrounded by his officers. They were monitoring the battle outside, where Colonel Adams and his fighters were attacking the outer edge of the alien fleet. The Zephyrians thought they were winning. Jack burst through the bridge doors with his weapon drawn. The alien officers reached for their guns, but Dr. Parker's device had already disabled their equipment. They were helpless. General Vorthak? Jack said, his voice echoing in the sudden silence. We meet at last. The general turned slowly to face him. There was no fear in his eyes, only anger and pride. So you are the famous Jack Morrison. You are smaller than I expected. I am big enough to kill you and all your friends. Vorthak laughed, a sound like steam escaping from a broken pipe. You think you have won? You think killing me will end this war? There are others who share my beliefs. Others who know that humans must be destroyed. Then I will hunt them down too, one by one, until there are none left. The general's hand moved slowly toward a hidden weapon at his side. Jack saw the movement and smiled. Go ahead. Try it. Vorthak drew his weapon, a curved blade that glowed with energy. It was a traditional Zephyrian weapon passed down through generations of warriors. The general had used it to kill many enemies in his long career, but Jack Morrison was not like other enemies. He was faster, stronger, and more ruthless than any alien warrior. When Vorthak lunged forward with his blade, Jack stepped aside and grabbed the general's arm. He twisted it sharply, hearing the bones break with a wet crack. The blade fell from Vorthak's useless hand. Jack picked it up and examined it. The weapon was beautiful in its own way, crafted with skill and decorated with ancient symbols. It deserved a better owner than General Vorthak. This is for trying to kill me, Jack said, and he drove the blade into the general's chest. Vorthak collapsed to his knees, green blood spreading across his uniform. He looked up at Jack with dying eyes. You are a monster, he whispered. No, Jack replied. I am what you made me. I was a diplomat. I wanted peace. You turned me into this. The general died with a final, rattling breath. Jack looked around the bridge at the surviving officers. They were staring at him with terror and shock. Good. They would remember this moment for the rest of their lives. The war is over, Jack announced. Your leader is dead. Your fleet is destroyed. Surrender now and you will live. Keep fighting and you will join him. The alien officers looked at each other uncertainly. Then, one by one, they raised their hands in surrender. The Shadow Claw Rebellion was finished. The battle in the asteroid field ended within an hour. The Zephyrian ships that tried to fight were destroyed by Colonel Adams and his fighters. The ships that surrendered were captured and their crews taken prisoner. General Vorthak's dream of war between humans and aliens died with him, but Morrison's actions had consequences that reached far beyond the asteroid field. News of the general's death spread quickly through Zephyrian space. The moderate faction, led by peacekeeper Morrison, seized control of the government and immediately sued for peace. The new Zephyrian leadership offered unprecedented concessions to humanity. They agreed to pay reparations for the assassination attempt. They signed trade agreements that favored human interests. They even agreed to joint military exercises and cultural exchange programs, but Jack Morrison was no longer the same man who had negotiated the original peace treaties. The diplomat was gone, replaced by something harder and more dangerous. When the Zephyrian delegation came to Earth to sign the new agreements, they specifically requested that Jack Morrison not be present. They were afraid of him. Admiral Patricia Stone offered Jack any position he wanted in the Earth Defense Force. He could have been a general, an admiral, even the head of military intelligence. But Jack chose something different. He created the Human Protection Agency, a small organization with unlimited authority to defend human interests throughout the galaxy. The HPA operated in the shadows, going places that regular military forces could not go and doing things that regular diplomats could not do. Jack recruited a team of specialists to help him. Major Tony Garcia, an explosives expert who had lost his family in an alien attack, Dr. Amanda Ross, a tactical analyst who understood how alien minds worked, Captain Angela Price, a pilot who could fly anything with engines. They were all people who had been changed by war. Just like Jack, the galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were not just another species to be conquered or controlled. They were adaptive, creative, and absolutely ruthless when threatened. They would not be victims. They would not be slaves. And if you tried to hurt them, they would hunt you down and make you pay. Years passed. The peace between humans and Zephyrians held.